Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Behind the Green Screen. As you can see, there's no green screen behind me, and I think this makes episode 28. Yes. Now, if you see my screen moving along with me, don't panic. There's nothing wrong with you. I finally got a new gimbal. If you remember from past episodes, the gimbal that I had would suddenly drift, and wasn't really tracking me and was doing all kinds of strange stuff. And that's because I abused that gimbal because I never really worked with it. So there are often times when I would do stuff that was, not the smartest thing to do as the operator. And so the gimbal finally said enough. And I've had it since 2019. So, I was way overdue for a new one. So, so this is a new gimbal. Got tracking, comes with lights, comes with AI stuff. It's pretty awesome. I'm just getting used to it. So, just stay with me. And we'll get through this together. So, hey, hi, how are you? How's it going? For this episode, I am happy to report that the book that I'm going to talk about is a book that I read recently and I paid full price for, and it was a recommendation from the internet. All right. So let me start by how it all came about. So Netflix has done an adaptation of this book. And the adaptation came out on Mother's Day. Have I watched it? No, not yet. But when I was on Instagram, Netflix had posted a preview, and in the movie, I'm going to throw a big hint out there, stars Sally Field. And, oh my gosh, I know his name. And he was in Star Trek. It'll come to me. But so I saw this preview, and then I just made an innocent question. I posted a question: is this the Octopus book? There, I just gave you a hint. I said, is this the Octopus book? And everybody was like, yes, and you got to read it. Even my pen friend in Italy, who I used to write to. We used to write to each other on a regular basis. I think I've mentioned her. She lives in Italy. And one of the things that when we used to write to each other about, we would write about books. And I believe that in one of my episodes, I talked about one of the books, Not Slow Waltz in Cedar Bend. That was the second one he wrote. The first one is Bridges of Madison County. That pen friend was she the one that sent me that book? Now I have to think about it again. Sugar snaps. No, it was my first pen pal. It was my British pen pal, Jo. She was the one that sent me that book. But in any event, I kind of got off topic again. But in any event, so even my Italian pen friend got on there and said it was a wonderful book. You got to read it. And I was like, oh, damn. If she read it in Italy, then yeah, okay. Then I better get on board with this. So I was just like, okay, this is the perfect reason to go to the bookstore, right? To Barnes and Noble. I went to Barnes and Noble. This is not an endorsement, just to say. This is not an endorsement, but I went to Barnes and Noble because I enjoy going there, and I was like on a mission to find this book, and I paid full price for it, right? Because this book is still in circulation, and now that it's been made into a movie, you can expect to see it not in the clearance rack at all. However, and here's the funny part, right? So a week after I get this book, not even a week. It was a couple of days after I bought this book that I went to TJ Maxx to buy something. And as I'm standing in the checkout aisle, if you've ever been to TJ Maxx or Marshall's, well, especially TJ Maxx, what they do is they fill their aisles full of crap. So as you're standing and waiting, your eyes happen to wander, and then all of a sudden you're picking stuff out of the checkout aisle and adding it to your cart. You people know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm in that aisle and I'm waiting to check out, and I just happen to turn my head and I see books. And yeah, TJ Maxx will have books on sale. Any kind of book. It's children's book, any kind. And lo and behold, this book was there on clearance, half of what I paid for it. Now, I'm not going to beat myself too much over it, only because there was no way for me to ever think that this book would be at TJ Maxx for half off. All right. It wasn't something that I would be like, yeah, I'm just going to go to TJ Maxx and see if I can find the book. No, because I would never expect to find a book there. But there it was, 50% off what I paid for it. And I kind of like, no. But again, I wouldn't have thought to go to TJ Maxx to find that book. And I was on a mission. So I got the book, and I enjoyed it. I totally enjoy it. And the great news is that I can talk about this book because it's fresh in my head. It's not something that I read like 20 years ago and I'm going through my library and like covering it for this episode. So the book I'm going to talk about for this episode is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, the Octopus book. All right. This book is very, the tense, meaning the grammar tense, she uses present tense, which I found kind of interesting. Excuse me. And I thought it would be annoying to read it in that tense, but it works. And according to, I think I read up on this book, Shelby Van Pelt wrote this during lockdown. And I have to give it up to her, because it's not easy to write a book. I've written 2. The first one was for my master's thesis. And that took 8 months, and I was really pushing it. And I really wasn't, I went back to it and produced the product that I would have, created had I had more time and better focus. But it was basically like I was at the end line. I was at the finishing line. And my only goal was to put together a product that still was quality, but satisfied the requirements for me to graduate. But that took me 8 months, and I was working with someone who was basically my editor. She was my mentor, but she was wonderful and invaluable. And as I was writing, because it was a collection of short stories, as I was putting it together, she was giving me amazing input for it. And so for Shelby Van Pelt to write this book, and I have to say that the Octopus as a device was very, very clever. I give it up to her on that. And I learned something about octopuses that I didn't know before. So, bonus points on that. Excuse me. But yeah, to me, as I was reading the book, and every so often, the octopus would come in and give little reveals of the mystery, because I saw the book as a mystery. All right. And others, if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to reveal too much, because I really would like to, sort of tease you to go and buy the book and read it, or borrow the book. Go to your library and borrow the book too. And you can ask me why I didn't go to the library. That's a very valid question. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in a library, and it wouldn't hurt me to go. So next time, if there's a book that's out there, I'll try to refrain from buying it and actually go to a library and borrow it. I would say that probably the reason why I did not go to the library to borrow it is because sometimes I'll start a book and I don't finish it. And yes, I know that I could easily renew the book and stuff like that, but I don't really think it would be fair because I have a tendency to start a book, put it down for like 3 weeks, and then pick it back up again. And I wasn't sure if this was going to be the case with this book, which is the reason why I went out and bought it. Okay, let me get that out of the way. All right, so the octopus, I saw it as a mystery. The octopus was very good in helping the mystery along. Very well done, Shelby. The octopus, I saw the octopus, and I'm going to get a little academic here. All right, so chorus, the idea of a chorus of people singing together, that came from ancient Greek plays. And the reason why I know this is because I researched this for an article I wrote. Now, in ancient Greek plays, they had always a group of people, and that's where the chorus came in. So a group of people in between scenes would come in and sort of sing and give the audience a clue as to what was going on, you know, what they were missing, catch them up on some stuff, and they would sing it, right? And then it would be the next scene, blah, 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 and then the chorus would come in again and you know, tell the audience what was going on and give little hints and little clues. That's how I saw the octopus. I saw the octopus as part of a Greek play that was basically giving the audience little facts that the characters themselves could not produce because they are unaware of these facts. These facts are going on without their knowledge. So the octopus is there to say, hey, I'll let you in on a little secret about what's going on here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you about my life as an octopus, how I wound up in this aquarium, and what I've seen down under the sea, which is also part of how the octopus reveals the mystery. Now, what's interesting is that the octopus like spills the tea in the, like, I think halfway through the book. So the other half is about the characters finding the secret that the octopus is trying to show the main characters. So the main characters, there are, I would say, two main characters. One is an older woman. Her name is Tova, and she has Scandinavian roots from Sweden. And then there is this young man who you do not like right off the bat. I'm just going to tell you, he's a screw up. He's a screw up. He's got a really bad attitude. He's very sort of like, oh, you know, I had such a tough life, so I can be an asshole. And that's what he was like. He was an absolute arrogant asshole, but he was a smart asshole. And he just basically ignored you. He was, let's see, I think he was a millennial. Yeah, he's a millennial because he's in his 30s in this book. And he's like on that, on the late, like the spread, like for the millennial generation, it starts at 1980 and it ends at like 1999, 95. I think that's when millennials end. So he was born in 90. And the reason why I remember this is because he was born the same year as my older son. So that's how I remember that he is a millennial. But he's sort of like, you know, oh, woe is me. You know, my mom left. I don't know who my dad is. I've been raised by my aunt. I've been giving her hell, even though it's not of her fault that my mom took off and left. You know, so you got that type of character with a big, huge chip on his shoulder. Can't keep a job, can barely hold relationships. He lies a lot of the time. Other times he's deliberately misleading people. He tends to play mind games with people, and overall, very manipulative. Again, overall, he is a very unlikable character. And Tova, oh, I'm sorry, the character I'm talking about, I'm trying to remember. His name was, ay caramba. Hold on one second. I'll tell you his name, Cameron. Thank you. His name is Cameron. Cameron is just a very unlikable creature. Okay. Tova is not a very warm person. I mean, she has friends. There's this guy that's crazy about her who owns like a little small supermarket, but she just basically is like, yeah, I'm not really interested in you like that. I'm barely, I think you have a big mouth, because the guy who has a crush on her, his name is Ian. He does have a really big mouth, and he can't keep his mouth shut, and he's constantly telling other people's business. And Tova's sort of like, my God, man, stop talking about me. Just, like that's why she's kind of annoyed by him, because she's like, stop talking about me. Stop telling my business. All right. Stop trying to tell me my business. She's that type of person. She lost her husband and she lost her son in a mysterious boating accident one night. And so the whole book is sort of doing the big reveal about how these characters have a secret. And it gets revealed. And so I wasn't disappointed that the octopus spilled the tea, because there was still this thing going on is, will the characters find out what the octopus, whose name is Marcellus, just spilled? Okay. So that's what's going on there. Like, you're just wondering, like, okay, when will they figure it out? When will Tova figure it out? Will Tova go? It's like the mystery was still there, even though the big reveal was done. And so Shelby Van Pelt does a really good job of still continuing the story, even though we already have a pretty good idea, like what is what and who is who. And so the characters are very well built. Okay, like in all books like this, fiction, when you have your protagonist and your antagonist, there's always this narrative arc, the character changes. The character is this way at the beginning, and then over the course of the book, the character changes. And so that's what you see with these two. And the thing is that I don't want to consider Cameron the antagonist, because it's you have to read it to sort of really understand where I'm going with that, because I don't see him as the antagonist. I see him as a protagonist too, but I don't know. I can't quite process if there is a protagonist. I mean, an antagonist. I don't think there is. And I don't feel there is. Some may feel differently, but I don't think that either one of the main characters of the book, they're both protagonists. And they both are working through secrets and a mystery. Cameron is trying to find out what happened to his, who his real father is. And Tova, she's not really trying to solve the mystery of what happened to her son. Because oh gosh, she is and she isn't trying to figure out what happens. And see, that's the thing. I really don't want to reveal so much. I don't want to ruin it for you. I really want you to read this book, because it really is a really great book and a wonderful story. And what's interesting is that I didn't feel cheated, because I think she's sort of, in storytelling, there is a formula. And us as fiction writers, we know the formula, and it's basically taken from ancient Greek plays, in which there is a slow rising of action. It's rising until you get to the climax or the apex where everything sort of, starts to explode. Everything just sort of comes to a point, right? And then afterwards you have the denouement, or the falling action. Okay. So for me, the apex or the climax was when Marcellus, the octopus, spills the tea. But Van Pelt does a really good job at keeping the story moving. It doesn't slow down. it keeps along because there's still the mystery that both people need to solve. So even though Marcellus has let us in on it, the two main characters, they have to arrive at what we have just been given or what we've just been let in on. So we continue to read the rest of the book so that we hope that the characters find out what we already know. Okay. And so it's a good way to keep you in the story, because it's like, okay, Marcellus is going to spill the tea. Now we need to find out if the others are going to find out as well. And Marcellus helps them along and he spills the tea for them as well. Very clever. So one of the things that I found that was very interesting was the way she tied everything up. All right, so let me fill you in. So I was dedicated and focused on finishing this book. I did not want to put it down and then not pick it back up, because I really was moving along, and I really did find the story engaging. I found the characters to be very well written. So this was before Mother's Day, like maybe a week or two before Mother's Day. And I was traveling back and forth to Connecticut for personal stuff for my sons. And by that time I had reached, so this is the end of the book, right? That's where I was by the, when I was traveling back and forth to Connecticut, right? So for whatever reason, I didn't want to finish it because I took the train up to Connecticut, but I flew back. And so when I was taking the train up, it's a five hour, over 5 hours, you would think that would be the perfect time for me to finish the book. But for whatever reason, I didn't want to finish it just yet. I wanted to prolong the sweetness of it. I know that's weird, but I did. But I knew that I didn't want to prolong it too long, because if I did, then I would never finish it. So I held on. Oh, good. I'm making good time. All right. So I continued and I held on, and I got back, and that weekend I had to go into DC for something related to my volunteer work at the museums. And so I figured, I managed to read some of it, but there was still some left. I think it was like the last chapter. And I said, you know what? I'm on the metro because I live way out from DC. And so I take the metro in, and it's about a little over an hour from where I live to get into DC. So I said, yeah, that would be the perfect time to finish the last chapter of this book. So everywhere I go, I travel with a handkerchief in my pocket. Yeah, I'm old school. And that's because when my mother passed, she had like this silk purse that was filled with old handkerchiefs. And I sweat, just ever since I moved down here, I sweat at the drop of a dime, and it ruins my makeup. It's so annoying. But that's what happened. So I'm on the train, and luckily I have the handkerchief in my pocket, and it was a good thing, because as I'm reading, Shelby Van Pelt ties up everything so sweetly, so nicely, and it's to the point that I'm on the train and I'm ugly crying. You hear me? I'm ugly crying, and I had to pull out the handkerchief, and I'm trying not to mess up my makeup because I was all done up, right? So I'm like, no, you can't do this. And I'm like, I'm reading and I'm crying, and I close the book and I start crying some more on the train in front of everybody. I didn't care. That's what I was feeling. I had a handkerchief so that it wasn't so horrible to look at. But that's what happened when I finished the book. I ugly cried because it was such a nice, when you read books and, there's so much drama and sad stuff in it that you really hope that it ends with a happy ending. And Shelby Van Pelt did not disappoint. The book ended with a very happy ending, but it's the type that makes you cry. And yeah. I highly recommend Remarkably Bright Creatures. I didn't say the title at the beginning, did I? I didn't. I highly recommend Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Oh, yeah, I did. I'm not worried. Okay. So, yeah, I highly recommend this book. I'll let you know if I like the Netflix adaptation. I haven't seen it yet. And what was really interesting is that for the first time, it was the reverse. I read the book and now I'm going to watch the movie. All right. So yeah. Yeah. So, so that's it for this episode. I highly, and you know what I like? Books, softcover books are getting really attractive. Like I noticed that when I went into Barnes and Noble and I was looking at other books, and I noticed that books are getting the softcover books are getting more and more attractive with pages and stuff like that. See how it did all of that? And I love the cover and the color on the cover. I love that. So, and before I wrap this up, okay, so that in the past I have done behind the green screen episodes on books, summer reading lists, putting together summer reading lists for books, right? And I told you that in the past, I've picked my books from a list. There would be a list of 100 books that you should read in a lifetime. And I would pick my books off of that. That's how I wound up reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and how I wound up how I wound up reading Lolita and Breakfast at Tiffany's, because these were books that were on that reading list. But I stumbled across something that I found kind of interesting. And unfortunately, I should have brought it and pulled it up. But the New York Times did something different. Instead of providing a list, what it did was provide a checklist. And it's a checklist on how to pick your summer reading list. Okay? And, excuse me, one of the things on the checklist that I remember most distinctly is one of the recommendations was to pick a book that's outside of the genre that you would normally read. And I said, what an excellent suggestion. What an excellent, criteria for picking a book to read. So I know what book I'm going to get. And it is a book that I could probably borrow from the library. And it is completely outside my genre. Now, I don't ordinarily read science fiction. I'm not a science fiction reader. Yes, I have read through audiobooks The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I truly enjoyed it because it had that British humor and seriousness about it that was so attractive to me. But other than that, I've never really sought out sci-fi books. If you look at my library, it's primarily mysteries, it's biographies, and art books and stuff like that, and erotica, but no sci-fi. And I believe one of this author's books is going to be turned into a movie, I think. And so believe it or not, I've never read Octavia Butler. I know who she is. I know that she is she's legendary. And but I've never read any of her books. So what I noticed is that when I was The displays in Barnes and Noble are also equally attractive, and they sort of highlight the beauty of the books. Like, for example, like all of this, they will set up the books just right so that you're drawn to the design of the book. So I noticed that Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower was there. So that's the next book that I'm going to get, Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. And I think that's being turned into a movie. Anyway, in any event, I'm going to wrap this up because my phone no longer has any more storage for videos. So I need to wrap this up. So I haven't forgotten the mantra. Let's say it together. All is well. Everything is working for my highest good. Out of this experience, only good will come. I am safe. Namaste. Until next time, I don't know what book I'll cover. It probably won't be Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. It'll probably be another book, but who knows? In any event, until next time, stay reading, start putting together your summer reading list because, summer's here, all right? And not officially, but unofficially because of Memorial Day weekend. You know this to be true, all right? So go out, put together your reading list. Go find a good tree or a good cafe with really excellent coffee and sit down and read for the summer, okay? And just take your mind and your troubles away because that's what books do for me as well, all right? Until next time, take care.